Merry Christmas carries on. As you know, she used my calling the White House early December of '98 as her main reason for leaving, and all I did was forgive Mr. Bill with humor and the solution to his problem at the time, as I had first said to the operator after she said, "Hello, White House." I started to ask, could you please tell Mr. Bill? And she was like, what? Just jumped on me. And I'm like, oh, excuse me, please tell the president that if he was to tell one more lie and say he was making love, God says that's not sex. And then ask the Republican Christian Science Organization, where in your hell is your forgiveness? This is a white buffalo. Click. As in asking not what your country can do for you, but rather what can you do for your country. And I believe that joke saved the country millions of tax dollars in court costs that should pay for my Social Security disability for the rest of my life. But I also figured where the call cost me my second divorce, that at least I deserved to thank you. And lo and behold, ask and you shall receive, that on 1/11/2001 at the Dover High School, after spending 20 minutes trying to get through the metal detector, with the main problem being my Dillinger lighter, that I finally told them to just throw it away. It never worked anyhow. And as I had returned it 3 times and kept having the same problems with the flame control, and then you had all my rings, belt buckle, and snaps on my leather jacket and metal shanks in my boots. We finally got through with my friend in a wheelchair. We got front row seats. And when I shook Bill's hand, I said, I am the white buffalo. And he smiles and tilts back, saying, I like those white buffalo. And then opening mouth, inserting foot, adding things. The white buffalo is sacred. And I am exclaimed, I'm the one who called. And he got very serious, leaned forward and said, thank you. Thank you, Bill. I got something I wanted, Telling this story to my friend in the wheelchair shrink, told me if my friend had never told him the story that he never would have believed me. So I told him, well, you can believe this, I'd never hire you. Who knew? Who knew? Mr. Bill, what have you done? According to the Star report, I should call you Mr. President Cigar Come Dress Mr. Clinton completely. What was wrong with us getting head while on the war phone? Don't they say 2 heads are better than 1? After all, they were discussing launching ballistic missiles. After all, he proved you can get effed without having sex. I was going to open up a lubricated cigar factory, but I couldn't get the bank to loan me the capital for the adventure. I have vaporized ice cubes for sale, but no one believes they make a drink at room temperature. Where I never could afford a good education, hell, I can't even afford to pay attention. So I started my own business. I call the IRS. I am the tax on Eggman, selling individuality reality systems. No sales yet. Everyone I met already had one or couldn't handle the information downloading. We also have free thoughts for sale, but rare is it we ever meet someone who can afford the time to pay attention. Every day is a new day. That we could say, here we are at another new beginning with our wondering where to begin. And with the wonder, we've already begun. I have started over again so many times now, I lost my accountability to count accurately. How many times I've actually started over again before. Where we actually started before we even typed the first letter, where we have to have had a thought first before we can begin the Sky Mind Thought Factory thought transformation into a written thought expression communication form, that once the Sky Mind Thought Factory thought has been thought worth the transformation process, begins the writing thought flight using a simple multiple thought pattern thought process, using the old-fashioned pick and peck method, using our sign language free bird middle fingers with pick the first letter, peck the first letter, picking and pecking all of the letters to the first word, and then a pick and a peck on the big space key, then picking and pecking all of the letters to the second word, and a pick and a peck on the big space key, picking and pecking the big space key after each and every word. Just maybe why as a writer I've spaced out so much in my life. Well, on a writing thought flight, I call myself a pick and pecker, that a writing thought flight lasts until the conclusion of the Sky Mind Thought Factory thought transformation into a written thought expression communication form, landing in the wonder of what next to write. that just may be why, as a writer, I've wondered so much in my life, as I do love to wonder. Where I once wondered so much, I wondered if I wondered enough, would I one day become wonderful? You know, in memory of William David Will, I called the Silver Pearl Wizard Will. May he rest in peace, is remembered best for our discussion we had about how many times that I had started over. You know, anyway, I can't count. Well, I could count if I had to count, but he asked me if I knew what the true fun, one joy in starting over was. And where I had not a single good response, I asked the Silver Pearl Wizard Will, what is the true fun and joy in starting over? And he goes on to explain that the true fun and joy in starting over is in all the more that you have to begin with working upon, improving upon all of your past previous work efforts, to work upon, improving upon them wherever, whenever, however possible. And then in jest, I asked him if he knew what the first thing was that you should remember if you have truly started over, and he didn't know, so he asked for it. And I told him that the first thing you should remember if you truly started over is that you haven't done anything yet. As when writing to another who has never read the writing before or ever heard of any of the ideas we express, they know nothing, and are the fun of having someone to carry onward, wayward with the path of thoughts I chose to leave behind to be followed. As when writing the beginning is the most fun, having all of my thoughts to work with, as it gets more and more complicated, with the more I write, the more I have to remember of what I've written, not to repeat myself as if I hadn't already said it, as if I've already done it. I'm sure I know I did, because I've said redundantly a couple of times. Well, at the same time, I'm running out of ideas, the ideas I have that I feel are worth writing about. You know, I'm just working on my writing. Y'all have Merry Christmas.